Hey, lovely listeners, our lovely Real Crime Profile listeners. We are so happy to be jumping on to say happy holiday to you all. It's Laura.
And Lisa.
And Jim, and happy holidays.
And Buddy and B, we're all here to say hello to you all and to wish you just a safe and sane holiday. We know that it has been a year, right, you guys?
It has.
It really has. It's been a tough year for so many people, and yet there's been so many heroes and sheroes doing incredible work and incredible jobs that we wanted to give a shout out to.
So I think this has been a very difficult year for all of us. Difficult to connect with family and friends and loved ones. So much of our interactions have been reduced to audio and video, and that's tough for everyone. So we wanted to say to everyone, every one of our listeners who have, stuck with us during these very difficult times, that we really appreciate you. We honor your loyalty, and we send our sincerest wishes for a happy and healthy holidays and a joyful new year, please.
Exactly. And we love you not just because you listen to us, which is wonderful, but you also engage with us. It's such a community that we have on Facebook and Twitter and Insta, and you send us so many private messages sharing just your stories and the things that have happened to you. I mean, we are so honored that you trust us with that information and just want to let us know, and hopefully it helps you to just release that and talk about it. Some of you tell us things that you've never told anyone else, and wow, what a privilege it is for us to be honored with that.
Yeah, and there's also people, I got a message just last week from somebody who's starting a new job, as a volunteer at the courts, being a domestic violence advocate. And she said listening to Real Crime Profile inspired her.
Wow.
And all the work around domestic violence and coercive control. So she felt she should be an activist and be an advocate. And I said to her, that's incredible. It's one of the best messages that I've received. So we know you're making a difference, and we're so happy that you tune in and listen to us every week as we talk about real lives, real cases, and try and help people as much as we can. And Miss Beatrice has been especially groomed to make her full debut on Real Crime Profile today, knowing that she's going to see Buddy, Mr. Budvar.
Yeah, Buddy
Jim.
likes to be a little more, beach ready. He loves just letting his hair just flow in the wind. But.
So I was looking over, do you know what our first episode was for 2020? I was looking over all our past episodes.
What's that?
It was Profiling Detective Trap, that amazing detective who just gave her heart to finding out who murdered several sex workers, women yeah. Sex workers, yes. And then we went into Don't Fuck with Cats. Doesn't that feel like so long ago?
Oh my God.
We have done so much. We went through Bill Cosby, Laura, hooking us up with so many great resources in that story. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna avoid talking about the Tiger King. We did Tiger King. And of course we covered the Guru, we covered Dr. Death, Jess Hill. I mean, we did a lot, you guys. We did a lot this year.
It's been a very crazy year. There's been so many just insane things that have happened. But as you said earlier, Laura, what an amazing group of people that we've met that have been heroes and sheroes in this process. And, obviously we can't forget about the whole George Floyd of it and all of the protests and hopefully the movement forward, that will help people be treated properly. Everyone should be treated properly. And race should not be an issue in terms of how anybody deals with anybody else. So I'm glad that there seems to be a real push in that direction to equality, finally.
Yeah, it's very much needed. And I would certainly recommend, it takes me back thinking about that time actually with George Floyd, but in particular, I was listening to Brene Brown's podcast with Ibram Kendi, and I was going to make the recommendation that our listeners should check out that podcast because he really helped clarify in my mind how I could become a much better activist and be anti-racist and not just be passive in it.
Awesome.
And I think so many people felt confused at the time of how do we be allies. And how do we stand up. And I found that podcast was super helpful in helping me become active in the fight against racism and prejudice. And we can all play our part.
Good. Let's put the link on our site.
Yeah, we definitely will. So do you have other things to recommend? This is such a great time of year. Hopefully, if you can get some rest and kind of snuggle up and nest a little bit. And I know my Anglophilia goes crazy around this time of year because all I want to do is watch British baking shows and, petticoat and corset, Pride and Prejudice marathons and all that stuff. But what do you guys look forward to watching or that you recommend for our listeners to check out?
I watched a short film that was very poignant recently, and it's a little weird, different, but it's called The Neighbor's Window. And it really, the ultimate meaning of it is that, we see snippets of other people's lives and we think, oh, they have the perfect life, because we know we're living in our lives and we have all the difficulties and walls that you have to climb over and run into and setbacks. And we look at somebody else's life and think, wow, they have it all. But then when you actually get down into the nitty gritty, they have exactly the same kind of life as you. And maybe they were looking at you thinking you had it all. And I think it's a really important message. And it's not exactly a G-rated video, but it is something that has a very important message. So that's
what's it called? The Neighbor's Window?
Yeah.
I would love to recommend a couple of things for people to check out if you haven't. The Queens Gambit. Wow, what a show. It's an amazing show about, a young girl who perseveres and becomes a master chess player in a world dominated by men. And I'd also recommend a show called The Great, which is about Catherine the Great. It's a fantastic show. I think it's on Hulu with Nicholas Hoult and and Elle Fanning. And lastly, I want to recommend I May Destroy You, written and directed by Michaela Cohen. These are all strong female roles, really breaking barriers and boundaries in these shows. So I really recommend those.
I watched The Queen's Gambit, a great recommendation. Although what I will say is that scene where she's spiraling out of control, where she's wearing this sexy lingerie, smoking and drinking with her hair perfectly coiffed. I think we can safely say that was written by men in the writer's room, because women don't spiral out of control in their sexy lingerie. But the rest of it is beautifully done. I agree. And she is just captivating. The expressions, so much through her eyes, that not through any facial movement, is just, her range is incredible. Just brilliantly done, and it's a great, strong female lead. And yes, I watched I May Destroy You as well. It's a great recommendation. I agree. Although one of the things I've watched recently, which I'll recommend to our listeners, is Murder on Middle Beach, which is on HBO. I don't know if either of you have seen it yet.
Oh.
No, but our listeners have written about that. So you liked it?
It's very well done. It's very different because you've got a young man called Madison Hamburg who is investigating through his own documentary. He's the director, his mother's murder. And so I've never seen that before. He's the director, but he's also asking all the questions of his own family in the knowledge that it may well be one of them who killed his mother. And I think he's so authentic in it, and it leaves you with a lot of questions, but I don't want to ruin it for people. I have a very clear view on what went on. And he's still trying to get to the bottom of it. And where it was left was that he managed to get all the police files turned over to him through a Freedom of Information request. And so I'm sure there's going to be part 2 to it, but it's well done. You won't have seen anything like it in the way it's been pieced together. So yes, I highly recommend that. And a couple of things that are off script. I watched the documentary on the Bee Gees last night on HBO. It was brilliant.
I've heard it was really good. I would love to watch that.
So well done. Took me back in the music and Saturday Night Fever and just a lot of the backstory, which I didn't know. So yes, my mum kind of brought me up on Saturday Night Fever, and
me too.
Yeah, I mean it's very moving because it's about the brothers as well and their relationship and the dynamic. So yes, I strongly recommend that, along with Chernobyl, which is probably a harder watch for people, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. Did you see that, Lisa or Jim?
I haven't. It's so I think
it was
too much
amazingly done. It first of all, it is scary. When you realize the enormity of that event, it could have and could still actually destroy the earth. That's how the magnitude of what happened during that time. And it's unfortunate, but it seemed like politics really got in the way of dealing with it properly. And boy, there's still a serious chance that there will be long-term ramifications from it.
It's very powerful. It's not
Absolutely.
something to watch if you're feeling, a bit dark, but it's beautifully put together. It really makes you think about what went on back then and just the propaganda and the spin and what we were being told about what happened. And yes, I agree with you, Jim. I mean, do we really understand the long-term repercussions of that and the consequences?
I think, I don't want to give anything away, but it's still potentially melting down.
Wow.
Today, all these years later.
Yeah, I think we probably don't really understand the full impact. And a couple of other podcasts I'd like to recommend, which are Brené Brown's podcasts. I listen to her a lot, and I love her Unlocking Us series. But I just listened to one with David Eagleman, who's a neuroscientist, and him talking about how malleable the brain is. And that even by a conversation, we're a different person from where we were at the beginning of the conversation, and that the brain is live wired. And I just thought he described things incredibly well. So I recommend that, along with Elizabeth Lesser's The Power of Women's Stories with Brené. I think it really does make you think about stories that we hear through history and through time. Who creates the stories? And I'm talking about things like Pandora's Box and Helen of Troy and Adam and Eve, where these stories come from and how women are portrayed. And I really loved that particular episode, and the one with Dr. Mark Brackett, which is about feelings, thoughts and emotions, that a lot of us don't really understand the difference. And I think he communicates things incredibly well. And the last rec, which is a bit more lighthearted, is my friend Elisa Rosen's podcast, Reality of Reality. That she does a great job of going behind the scenes on lots of, reality and unscripted shows. And I've been on her podcast a couple of times, but she's had some great conversations with people over the years about shows that probably a lot of you consume and may not admit to consuming, but she's covered quite a few crime shows, as well as the Real Housewives of...
I was just going to say that's her thing, is the Real Housewives. Oh my goodness.
She kind of loves that, although she's just recently broken down The Crown. And I have to say, I really enjoyed The Crown. That's another recommendation. The most recent, is it season 4 or 5 with Princess Diana?
Yeah, I'm not sure what number it is. I really enjoyed last season. I love Olivia Colman, but yeah, this season they get into the, Lady Di and all that era.
And so well done. I mean, the detail on the costumes, if you just do a comparison like we were doing of what Princess Diana was wearing at certain stages where photos were taken, the attention to detail on wardrobe
Wow.
is just quite staggering, actually. And of course, people have those conversations. I've been having them with my own family. Did that happen? Did it happen? And every time I've asked that question to my mom and others, they're always like, yes, it did. But of course, the fly on the wall conversations, you never really know. But I think this particular season with Charles and Diana, in terms of their relationship, it feels very uncomfortable at times of what happened to Diana, if it's true, which I know some of it is, but of course we don't know when they're alone in a room conversations. But I think it's compelling viewing. So if you fancy something different, want to hear a little bit more, and watch Olivia Colman, and who else is in it? There's Vanessa, who was Vanessa Kirby was in the first few seasons, wasn't she? As Princess Margaret. I thought she was brilliant as Margaret. There's some brilliant actors in it, aren't there, Lisa?
Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, she rips it up. She's amazing. They're all great. You know, they're not just doing impersonations. I mean, they're really filling the characters with life, and I love that.
Yeah, my doppelganger, Gillian Anderson, who plays Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, that's right. Oh God.
Very different character from The Fool, but
Very
yes, it's
different.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a watch, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Great. Well,
one other one I would like to talk about, just a good feel-good movie for families, Echo in the Canyon. It's about Laurel Canyon in the 60s and all the amazing music that came out of there. The Beach Boys and the Mamas and the Papas, they just all sort of converged on Laurel Canyon, and they all had houses, and they were all sort of jumping around to each other's places. And it was amazing, like hearing the stories of how the Beatles listened to some of that music and inspired some of their music, but they were listening to the Beatles and getting inspiration for theirs. So it was really crazy how this kind of moment happened, where there's just this new, uplifting, really amazing music being made on different parts of the world, but sort of it all came together in Laurel Canyon. So I loved that movie. I went and saw it twice, actually, because I literally thought it was amazing. That was just an amazing time. And, you know, I grew up on that music. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I loved it.
Is it a doc? Is it a documentary, Jim?
It is a doc. Yeah,
okay,
it is
cool.
a doc.
So
Yeah.
I will definitely post all of these so we can all check them out.
Yeah. All right. And I think there's a number of other kind of spin-offs on them, but I think Echo in the Canyon is one, and maybe The Legends of Laurel Canyon or something is another.
Excellent. So we wanted to give a specific shout out as well to all incredible people who've been working and supporting us throughout this very difficult time, from the teachers to the nurses to the doctors or healthcare providers, law enforcement, domestic violence advocates and specialists, and stalking specialists, and who else?
EMTs and ambulance workers.
And all the janitorial staff who are constantly disinfecting everything and keeping us safe in hospitals and everywhere, in schools. It's just an overwhelmingly difficult job. And all the delivery, all of those Amazon delivery people, everybody who's just working
and the
together.
Mail carriers.
That's right. Yeah. Everybody. I know
grocery stores, people still working in pharmacy.
And
we sometimes forget about some of those key people that are just doing fantastic work, putting their lives on the line every day, as unfortunately COVID cases are rising everywhere. I mean, even though the UK was in lockdown, they opened up again, and now London today just went to tier 3.
Wow,
these spikes that keep happening. It's very
scary.
Concerning.
So scary. Yeah. But, we're going to make it. That's when we all pull together, when we all work together, there's nothing that we can't accomplish and come through. And I know that will happen. And we're so grateful for all of you.
We are. The vaccine has just landed in California, hasn't it? Was it yesterday? And vaccines are being transported to various places all across the world, and obviously we're all now going to go into a tier system of who gets it, but it feels like hope and help is on the way, and that's a very positive thing to be going into the holidays with the new year just literally around the corner, 2021. And I can't quite believe, in a weird way, how quickly this year has gone. There's so many horrible and significant things have happened. I mean, for me, being stranded in London for 5 months, which in a way was a godsend, because it meant with my mother and my sister, who both have cancer, I could be there to help my mum. And I do just want to say thank you to everybody who's sent messages of support to the Marge. It's really meant a lot and has kept her buoyed up. And on Wednesday the 16th, it's her last treatment. And
Yay.
we are so pleased that she's going to have this last treatment a year and a half ago, because it's been a year and a half that she's been in treatment. It seems so far off, and now she's almost there and will be given the all clear on Wednesday. So she'll have drugs and medication, as you both know, for the rest of her life. But it's been a real tough journey, and she's so resilient and strong and courageous, and I'm so proud of the way that she's handled it, and I love her so very much. And it's a hard thing now not being there with her, right. Particularly for the end of the treatment, to hold her hand, to give her a hug, but she knows I'm thinking about her.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. We're really happy to hear that, Laura, and I hope your sister's okay too.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the people who have shown me support over the last few weeks with my recent loss, my partner and, best friend, and just wonderful guy. So I really appreciate everybody who reached out and sent me messages. Thank you so much.
And I want to give a big shout out to our friend and my husband, Paul, who has become an essential worker because he's become a severe needs special ed teacher. And we're so proud of him. It's been a really difficult path for him to do all of the requirements and write 36-page papers, if you guys can imagine, and being in the classroom during the pandemic with special needs kids is not easy. So I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud of, my 2 boys, Aiden and Mateo, who've been doing high school from home, studying French and biology and math that I can't even imagine. And they've just been so strong, and it's been a blessing for me. Thankfully, I can work from home and watch them interact in the class and how they ask questions and how they talk to their peers. It's really special for me to be able to see that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, we wish everybody the happiest holidays possible. And even though we may not be able to be around the people that we love, we have 100% freedom to tell them that. And I would suggest that we do it at every opportunity. So I love you, Lisa and Laura, and I love you, listeners. Thank you so much for being there for us.
We love you too.
Thank you, Jim. That's such a nice message. And I'll also just add to our listeners, remember how important self-care is, please, and being kind to yourself, and sleep, which is one of the best things you can do for yourself, self-care, getting more sleep. And I think sometimes when we're at heightened stress, because we go into alert mode and we're stressed out, we don't take as good enough care of ourselves. So if you listen to the podcast on brain neuroscience with David Eagleman, you'll hear a lot about how sleep is the best tonic for us all, and exercise, and really being kind and gentle with yourselves. It has been a difficult period, and it takes a toll on everyone. So more self-care, more happy movies and feel-good things to balance out your crime intake, true crime, binge listening and watching and reading.
Right.
Yep, lots of good wine. And yes, everyone, please stay safe. Thank you, Jim and Laura, for an amazing year. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to victims everywhere. And thank you, listeners. Have a safe and happy holiday.
Take care, everyone. Have a very happy holiday. Happy New Year for 2021, everyone.
Can't wait.